everyone, this is Laura from Granite Co. Today I'm going to go through the painting and the assembly of the interchangeable wagon in your DIY kit. There is some pieces you will stain and some pieces you will paint, so I will go through that, and then once that's dry I will go through the assembly of the wagon. You will need a glue if you already haven't bought that yet, and I will just go grab that. I've tried a couple different ones, and this one by far is the best one that holds super quickly and doesn't all absorb into the wood, so it doesn't stick very well. So this is the Gorilla Super Glue, and it's in gel format. So that's what I would recommend to assemble this wagon, but we won't need that till after. So right now we're going to get started on the staining. So for mine, I'm doing it in walnut. And I've just separated the pieces out that will be stained and painted, so that way I don't get them confused. So you can totally do this any way you like. This is how I've chosen to do mine. So grab my foam brush and you will stain. And you will notice that there will be some charring on the back and normal on the front. Once we go to stain this, especially with the dark color, you won't notice it at all. So don't worry about that. So I'm just going to do this really quickly and stain this. I'll fast forward it so you guys don't have to watch me do this in slow motion. So once you're done each piece, just give it a wipe and then set it aside. And once they're dry, we will give them a sand. So I will just finish this part and I'll be right back. Okay, so I'm done staining all of the pieces. So when you're picking a stain color, remember this is interchangeable. So if you, as you add each design, choose a color that you feel will complement the colors that you will use throughout the year when you choose other designs. So walnut would be a nice dark brown that complements for the brown tones. And if you like gray, clay is another color that works really well for the gray tones. All right, so that is done, and we're just going to leave those to dry. Now they may look really dark, but as they dry, they will lighten, as well as once I sand them later, they will start to lighten as well. So now I'm going to get rid of this. Okay, and now I'm going to do the painting. Okay, so we're going to do the black. Now in your kit you will have some makeup sponges or a foam wedge, and because by using this really big piece on a little surface area, you'll find a lot of the paint you will push into the grooves and stuff or over the edge. So I like to cut mine into smaller pieces, and so I'm just going to first cut it in half. So once I'm done black and this is dried out, I will usually go and snip it down, so eventually I just have really small pieces that I'll use when I have small projects. So I'm just going to take some black. I'm going to dab most of it off so it's fairly dry. You can see that there. And then I'm going to blot it on the edges. Now you're going to do this a couple times. Best to just do thin coats, and it will dry really fast, so you won't be here all day doing this. So I'm going to just do one side at a time as I do these, and then come back and do the other side. So I'm just going to once again let it go by on fast motion, so that way you don't have to watch every second that I'm doing this, and I will be back. Okay, I'm back after the first coat. These will dry here in a second. I'm going to start giving them a sand. Now the one thing when painting these is that the coats need to be really, really thin. This is already a really tight, snug fit in some of these notches and stuff. So we don't want to add a whole bunch of layers of paint, or make sure it's dripping down the side on the wheels here, because we might even have to sand that just to thin it out just a little bit. But definitely watch your edges on all of your notches. So that way that's not going to cause an issue when you are assembling this. All right, so I can tell you these are dry already, so I'm just going to take my sandpaper and give both sides a quick sand, and that will lighten it up a bit, but it will also make the surface really smooth, so that second coat will go on a lot nicer. Okay, well now that's a little bit quieter for you guys as my compressor is off. Okay, so find your sponge again and do it on repeat. So you're going to do the exact same thing. Start on one side, finish all those, and then go back and do the other side. So as you can see, there is this, here, let me just get this in better light. There's the second coat, there's the first coat, so you can definitely see a difference. And and that doesn't take a whole lot of paint. I'm actually dabbing more off on the paper towel than I am putting on my wheels. Alright, so I'm almost done here, and I'm going to let these pieces now dry for, well, they'll dry overnight just because of the time it is here at the store, and then I'm going to sand them. If I do it right away, the paint tends to sand off a lot easier than if I just let it sit overnight, and I want the black to stay pretty rich, but maybe just distress the edges a little bit, and then I'm going to want these to dry up really well before I give them a sand. So these need a little longer to dry as well. And so yeah, I will come back later and I will show you how to put it together. All right, bye guys. Hi guys, I'm back now with the remaining part of the tutorial here. So now you should have all your pieces painted and sanded nice and smooth. And now we are going to go into the assembly process. So just be patient with this part. Don't rush it if you don't have to. So we're going to start with the bottom piece that holds the four wheels. The notches in here are for your wheels to go into. So before you start putting glue on them, make sure and gently pre-fit. If you're finding that you're having a little bit of an issue getting them in here because your wood can swell and all that stuff as you stain it or paint it, if you've got some extra paint on the side, you want to make sure those fit. If you push too hard, you will probably damage your wood. So it doesn't take much. These are cut to just fit snug. So just a gentle sanding on the sides should make that fit in a lot better. So let's just, and no one's gonna see that anyways when we sand the sides. So yeah, so now once I push it in, I can get it to move. So make sure and do that with each one, and then make sure you pay special attention to which ones you've done it. So this one will fit once it goes in. So that's that side. And I'm gonna try this side. See, that one fits nicely. And this one, I think if I give it a wiggle, it will be fine. So that one will be fine too. Okay, so I'm just gonna lay it like that. Now, what I suggested is that you get the super glue from the Gorilla brand in the gel format, just because it stays thicker and it grabs a lot nicer. Oops, that one just squirted out more than I needed. Okay, so I'm just going to put this piece down and I'm going to gently push that into place. Now this should be flush because we do need to put some pieces of wood over top of that. So try and get your wheels to be fairly straight. Try not to get them too angled. If you have to, push this down, make sure everything is nice and 90 degrees. And if you have to, get a little hammer. I'm just gonna grab the one we have here at the store and just give it a little tap, because you want this, I don't know if you can see this, you want this edge to be nice and flat. You don't want that wheel to be sticking out, otherwise the board that we put over top of there won't stay nice and flat. Okay, so that's that one. And I'm just gonna continue on with the other 4 pieces. Another 3, sorry. I'm not so much worried if you have a little bit of, and it's not, but if a tiny bit sticks up on the inside, that's not a big deal because nothing's going to go over that. But so I'm putting the wheel on and then I'm laying it flat on the other side, so that way I get it to stand straight. And now I'm going to let those ones sit. I'm going to come in here and do the same thing. This gel stuff is fairly thick, so sometimes it just takes a really good shake to get it to the bottom, or up to the top, I guess. There we go. Just gently work it into place. And I'm going to do this one. Okay, so that, I'm going to flip this over since the other ones have had a chance to kind of set and make sure they're straight. So we're going to let that dry for a couple minutes. It usually doesn't take that long, but I want to make sure those wheels are nice and attached. And then we are going to work on our 2 pieces that go in the front and the back. And these ones I'll still work with it on the table like this because it's easier for me to keep it nice and level. So I'll come back in a couple minutes and we'll continue on with the next part. Actually, in the meantime, while those are just setting up, what you'll do is you'll take these 3 pieces here. So you have your 2 little ones with a diamond shaped and your handle. So what we're going to do before we even get this piece attached is we're going to figure out your handle pieces. Now, I didn't glue these pieces to the handle because it's all going to be attached into here, and this is where I'm going to put the glue. So right now I'm just trying to make sure that I get these on in the right direction. So what I'm doing is putting them on. So I've got it so my handle is like that because I want a little bit of a lean. And then these 2 pieces, which we won't attach now, we're just trying to make sure everything fits snug before we actually get this glued, because it's easier to make sure this all fits before this is glued on here than after. So once you've got these on here, then you want to double check and make sure these will fit in there nicely, because we're going to have to give a little bit of a push, maybe a little tap with a hammer, and mine will fit in there quite nicely with a little coaxing with the hammer. So that's what you want. And so then once that's done, just leave it off to the side, and we'll deal with that as soon as we get this part done. So I'm just going to check this. Okay, so this one is still not done. So I'm just gonna let that one dry a little bit more. It's flat, but I don't think it's, this is the one that was just nice and easy to get in, so it just needs a little bit more time to dry. I'm just gonna fix that wheel. Make sure they're straight. Okay, so I'll just keep talking while this one's almost set up. So what we're gonna do once these are done is that we're gonna glue the bottom edge on the front and let that set up. And we're gonna do the same to the other side for the back of the wagon. Once we set those and glue those into place, then we'll start to glue our slats into place. So this is why it's important that those wheel don't stick out, because we will be covering over them with this first slat. So that way you don't want it to be raised at all. It'll be nicer if you can get it nice and flush. So that should be fine there. So now I'm going to get going with this. So I'm just going to put some on the bottom edge. Now, what I find useful to have by here is some wet wipes, baby wipes, whatever, just in case I get a little extra glue leaking when I do this, or on my fingers, which I'm trying to avoid. Okay, so try not to get my head in here. So I'm keeping this on its side, and I'm going to give this a push so it starts to grab. Actually, just gonna stand it up here, and I'm gonna watch my fingers, because there we go. Want to make sure it's centered and it's flush. So trying to do that without getting glue on your fingers is sometimes a challenge. Okay, so I was able to push it, and I had some diaper wipes here so I could wipe it. And once it makes contact and gets a really good grab, then it's usually fine. But I want it to just grab. I don't want to start messing with it, even though it's got a little bit of a lean at the moment. That I can adjust as soon as I start to put my side slats on. So I'm just gonna give that a moment. As long as I know that this front edge is flush, I'm totally fine with that. Same thing, we're gonna do this edge as well. It doesn't need much. Stuff works really well and dries incredibly fast if you can get it attached fairly quickly. So give it a squish from the bottom if you can, and then just gently try and grab those, make sure it's flush on both sides, because you don't want those to stick out on one side more than the other either, because that will also make it hard for all your other pieces to line up. So we're just gonna give this a few minutes. I'm gonna just leave it for like 5 minutes, and I will come back and I will show you, because I just wanna make sure those are really strong, because if I start putting these on and giving them just a little bit of movement, they might pop off. So I will be back and we'll go on with the next part. Okay, so right now I've tested them and they are very, very strong, so we are good to go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the bottom one Then I'm going to come in and set that top one, and then I'll worry about the middle one. So I'm going to put the glue on here. Now just watch when you do this, just how high up you will need to make that so you don't go too high. So give that a good press, line it up. And give it a hold. Okay. Now because you have a lot more sides to adhere on this one, I would just sit here and hold it for the length of time you need to. Okay, I think we're good. So now I'm going to flip this around, and I want to make sure that this is not leaning back too far. So you definitely want to keep that at a nice right angle. So I know I gave that one a little move here. So kind of just lift that up, give it a good yeah, that should be fine. Okay, so this time you're only going to put glue at the ends. And just watch when if you've ever worked with wood before, okay, make sure these are all nice and lined up, pulled apart enough so they're even. Is that there can be a little bit of a bow to the wood. So if your pieces are a slight bow out, then put that out, because you can push it down rather than the edges are up and you have to work harder. So it's always better to have your bow in the middle going out. Whoops. Might need a little bit more glue on that corner, but okay. So right now we've got two pieces on like this. I am checking to make sure that it looks pretty straight, no funny lean. And if you can see, I'm not quite sure, you can see that's pretty darn straight. So right now I'm not going to do the middle. I want to get this other side secured. So I'm going to do the same thing here and do the other side. Okay, and I'm going to just show you about that wood. So you might see the slightest of a curve, and I'm going to have that going out. This one here. Okay, so make sure you line up your edges on all 3 sides on this one. Once you do, then start giving it a press here. Just watch as you're holding your fingers that you're not holding it in some wet glue and get your fingers stuck. So just keep moving your fingers. But you shouldn't have so much glue that it's squirting out everywhere. The diaper wipe is nice in case you have any drips as you squish the wood together, that you can wipe it up. If it's under on the underside, you don't really have to worry about it, but if you want your fronts and backs to look pretty nice, then you can just give it a wipe with that. Okay, that one seems pretty snug, so I'm going to flip it over again, and I'm going to do this one. Okay, so same thing. Should line up fairly well, except I might have to squeeze this one in just a little bit on that front corner. Keep moving my fingers because I keep sticking them to there. Okay, and this one. Those front corners. There we go. And then reposition. So you definitely want to make sure, just take your time and just gently push together. They do all fit nice and square, so if it's out a little bit, it just needs to be pushed in a little bit. If you're one who has really small baby clamps and stuff, that might help you. But really, if you just take your time and use your fingers, you should be okay. Okay, so I'm just going to leave that side flat, and I'm going to come in here and just eyeball it where I want that to go. So this time I'm going to put it a little bit on the ends of these pieces because I'm not sure exactly where they're going to end up. And you could always go in there and with the pencil mark if you want to. And do that. But I'm just going to get it into place and then come in here and try and make sure that those pieces look pretty even. And then give that a press. Okay, and then I'm going to flip it over. Okay, so now we're going to do the other side. Same thing. Okay, so glue on both sides and then put it in the middle there. And then what I would try and do is see if you can kind of line it up the same so it kind of looks even with the other side. And give it a press. You can quickly double check. Yep, that looks pretty good. So I'm just going to give that a moment to dry before I start to force this piece in the end. But after that, then it will be all done. So I'll be right back. Okay. So now these should all be snug. You can stand it up. Everything is balancing pretty nicely. So now we're going to work on this. So you are going to want, it is a pretty snug fit, but I'm just going to put a little bit of glue on a couple of the sides, the top and the bottom. Don't want it squishing out everywhere. Okay, so I'll just do this upside down. Okay, so now you've got these. You're going to gently fit these into here. Now, be patient in case they get twisted. And I know they fit because they did before. So just be careful when you're pressing on this that you're not pressing super hard. And you can't do one at a time, otherwise they're not going to fit. Actually, you know what? I'm going to give the fit, but I'm going to do, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take it apart and I'm just going to give this part a little sand. It doesn't take much. It's really just a little tiny bit that will make this fit. Okay, and then I'm going to do a little bit on the top and a little bit on the bottom. And I'm just using the grittier sandpaper, so it just wears away. See, that one fits nice. That one should get in there. Okay, so put this back on, and oh, my glue is. Okay, I'm gonna put a little bit more glue. Actually, I don't even know if I stuck any on there in the first place. There we go. A little bit there, and a little bit there. Yeah, because these fit so tight, I really am only just gonna do that little dot at the bottom. And I got a little bit of glue on the outside, so. Okay, let's try this again. There we go. Okay, so these need to fit all the way inside. So gently tap these in. Now when you're tapping, you want to be careful you're not pushing on that other piece, but whoops, here we go again. All right, how much more do I have to go? Okay, just a little bit more to go. Just watch when you're doing it, it doesn't angle, because that will also make it difficult. So if you're having a hard time getting them in there, as long as you can get them in there at least halfway. I've got mine probably 3/4 of the way in. Then you'll be fine. Like, you're not going to be sitting there pulling this wagon on it. So I'm just tapping it a little bit. When I do it, it wants to tip it just a little bit, but I'm pushing them back and evening them out so you can see they're nice and straight. And right now they're probably just a little bit from the thickness of the wood. Straighten them out. There we go. And you know what? I'm just going to leave it. That's all I need from it. I'm going to get this one just a tap. If you have to, just brace something underneath there if you have to do any tapping. So I'm just going to wedge this. There we go. Just give it a good support. Okay, so that is it. Okay, there it is, nice and straight, and you're all ready to put all of your pieces in there. And you can just set it on your shelf. You can set it in front, layering with your tiered trays. You have really lots of versatility to this, and we will be adding different themes for different occasions and seasons, so you can definitely watch out for that. But really, once you've made the wagon, the hardest part is over. These other pieces you stained will be used to hang your sign, so they fit, they fit really nice over top of your board here, once I get them attached to the sign, because you really have to angle them in, and I find that they stay attached better, and to not keep pulling them off on the sign. When you're done, you can just pull the whole thing off, and for each set of pieces you get, you'll get 2 new ones, so you'll be able to constantly put those over top, as long as you keep a little stain color to restain some new ones, you'll be good to go. So, all right, hope you guys enjoyed that one, and yeah, all right, thanks guys.